Just said iPhone.
Good morning, welcome to Sumter. It's an absolutely great day to be here. Rain included, because we needed it so bad. I'm Mayor David Burch. I'd like to welcome everyone to Sumter. Welcome, Senator Shell Sumter Farm. We're glad to hear this is a great day for Sumter, great day for South Carolina. Sumter's a city, our motto is uncomplicated. And that's where, as a city and a community, we embrace our active duty, Shaw Air Force Base, retirees, veterans, spouses, and just a great day that not only will Sumter be embracing uncommon patriotism, but the state will embrace uncommon patriotism today. So I'd just like to thank all that are here and welcome all that are here from our various veterans groups, our Team Sumter delegation, city folks, county folks, legislators. We'll let the governor and Secretary Grimsley be honorary members of Team Sumter today, so we're glad everyone's here. But again, just while you're here, we want you to welcome you to Sumter, and obviously those from out of town, come back and see what we're about, see what's special about Sumter and what we have going on here. So I'd like, no further ado, pass it on to Secretary Grimsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for being here. I don't feel it on the Sumter set. My parents were born and raised in Florida, so very far from here. This is a momentous day for military veterans and their families here and for the great state of South Carolina. You know, things like this don't happen by accident. This happens because of very purposeful action, and it really takes vision and drive to pull things like this off. And so there are several people here, and I'm not going to try and name everybody by name, but I'd like to say thank you for those who were directly responsible, especially for beginning this. And I'm going to start with the Military-Based Task Force, which was created by executive order long before I even knew any of this existed. They've been persevering for years to get this done, and my friends Bill Clay and Colonel Retired Charles Farrell, who are right there, were instrumental in the leadership of this, along with the community leaders of all of our military community installations around this great state of South Carolina. But it also takes advocacy groups, veteran service organizations like these ladies and gentlemen in front of me, tireless patriots who continue to serve long after they take off the uniform, to continue this advocacy for this very important legislation. And of course, it takes community leaders, and it takes a great leadership at the top. So our Chief Executive, Governor McMaster, has been also a tireless advocate since the day he assumed office for this legislation to make sure that we took care of those most deserving, our military retirees across the great state of South Carolina, and our leadership in General Assembly. And so I keep going to Sharon, but Speaker Smith and Sharon Peeler in the House and Senate respectively, members of both parties in both houses extraordinarily supportive of this across the years to finally get this across the line to do what's really important. And it only happens again because the General Assembly has stepped up in a big way to support us, and we really appreciate it. And we couldn't have done it without it, so we're extraordinarily grateful. And this is going to last in perpetuity. I'm going to talk a little bit about the impact here in a moment, but I'm going to deviate slightly because in addition to things like military retirement exemption, our General Assembly and our governor have been extraordinarily supportive of the continued support of our bases, our active duty installations, and of course our friends in the Guard, on the Guard side as well. And so I'm going to tell you today that in the next 30 days, we're going to have something very exciting here in Sumter County for Shaw Air Force Base, and that's the acquisition of another 1,000 acres of land to help preclude additional encroachment, especially on the north side. That's huge for national security. It's huge for the quality of life for this great base, which houses both Air Force and Army. But it's also great for the city and county of Sumter because they have permission working closely with Sumter leadership, and we're very excited. We're going to push this forward. And as we expand this out over the years, we'll continue to do the same for our other installations in their communities. And so just briefly, I'd like to talk about impact. Because, yep, there's a huge financial impact. Guys like me, 33 years in the Army, I appreciate this. This is so much more than financial impact. This is about human capital impact across the state of South Carolina. And so I'd really like to, have people focus on how important this is for a state that has such a deep and abiding respect for its military to now take this very tangible step forward, put a little money back in our pockets, and more importantly, bring more of us here. If you came from South Carolina, come home. If you've never been here before, come here. And if you served here, stay here or come back here. This is a great place to live and serve, raise a family, and have your kids stay here and do the same. And so it's extraordinarily important as we believe, we contribute very directly to the social fabric of South Carolina. We're pretty deep people. We know how to do a lot of things, and most importantly, we're extraordinarily patriotic. Every one of us raised our right hand at some point in our lives to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all of these foreign investors. That's an oath I would say we all hold pretty dearly and steadfastly. And so when you talk about a guy like me, it's important. When you talk about how this really impacts a person or a group of people, most importantly, I want to turn this over in a moment to a gentleman who works with me now, but he represents the vast majority of our retirees in South Carolina, and that's our enlisted force, non-commissioned officers especially. And that's who really directly benefits from this. That's who directly contributes to the workforce, to our communities, to our community organizations, to our veteran service organizations. We say that our non-commissioned officers are the backbone of our services, regardless of what service you're in. That's true. They're the hard workers who do this day in, day out for guys like me, an officer. And so it's extraordinarily important that now we're going to take care of them. We're going to allow them to continue to thrive in this great state and bring their families and have them thrive perpetually. Do this into perpetuity. And that's extraordinarily important for South Carolina. And so, to that end, I'd like to introduce now a gentleman who works for me, recently retired Army Command Sergeant Major Ed Bell.
Well, sir, thank you for those kind words, government officer, legislators, and guests. What a great day for our military retirees. What a great day for military retirees that will call Columbia home. The centerpiece of success of our nation are our men and women in uniform. H 3247 was huge in me making my decision to make South Carolina my state of residence. As I talk to military members around the state, they tell me how grateful they are for this bill being passed. They tell me how grateful they are that we invested in them, especially those military members who have family that they're trying to take care of. H 3247 will go down in history as the most critical bill that was passed to keep our unique military skill sets in the state of South Carolina. These type of skill sets will be in our community, will have a huge economic impact in our state. So to the legislators, to the governor, thank you for your support of our men and women who sacrifice and safeguard this nation. Thank you.
Good morning. What an unbelievable day for Sumter County, for our military men and women, and for our state. And the governor, so many folks that are here from out of town. Welcome to Senate District 35. Welcome to Sumter County. And welcome to this wonderful facility that we have here that was built by our citizens and our taxpayers. It was built by collaboration between our city, our county, and our state, who recognized how important the 80-year mission for Shaw Air Force Base has been to this community and the state, and how important it will continue to be for years to come. This is really an unbelievable day. So much has gone into it. There's so many folks who are here who put so much into this. We should thank. This is a day we thought maybe would never come, but I'll say better late than never.
And let me start by saying, this is probably the most important piece of legislation that I've worked on in my 10 years as South Carolina State Senator. As I mentioned, I've got Shaw Air Force Base at the heart of my district. After redistricting this past year, I'm now going to have Fort Jackson, McIntyre on the edge. I will be the legislator who represents more active duty military men and women than anyone in the state. And so this is vital. And let me just say this. The years and years have gone into this legislation. No delegation has worked harder or made this more priority than the Sumter County Legislative Delegation and our 7 members. We've had a lot of partner with this, but this has been the most important thing for us in my 10 years in the legislature. And, it started way before I got here. Speaker Smith, Representative Weeks, they worked on this for years and years and years. And just looking back over it, it's been said already. We talk about being a military-friendly state. We know how important it is to serve our veterans here and how important our installations are for our protection and for our economy in South Carolina. And so this is just a piece. When we talk about being a military-friendly state, this is the crown jewel. This is the thing that we had to have. We kept putting it off. And being candid with all of you today, the Senate was a roadblock. We worked for years and years on this, and we could not get it out of the Senate where our rules were a little bit different. And I'll never forget, I would say it's so great to see Mr. Bethea, Colonel Farrell, the fact that y'all are here today and getting to share in the fruits of your years and years of labor and frustration is just so special to us in Sumter. And I see Steve Priest back there, who's constantly been in our ears on this. General Mosley, you know how important this is. And so it's just been so collaborative. And I'll never forget, back in 2016, we came so close to passing this bill, Mr. Speaker. And I'll never forget that day how frustrated we were. I see Lynn Stokes Murray back there. I'll never forget the meeting we had on the last day of session. We said, should we go for broke on this and try to pass the whole thing while being blocked in the Senate, or should we try to get half a loaf? Me being a younger legislator, maybe a little more hot-headed, I wanted to go for broke. Speaker Smith and Mr. Bethea, y'all said, let's don't do that, let's get a bigger deduction. And we did that. The point is, it's been a process. It's been a process of victories along the way. This has been the ultimate victory. It's not only going to attract more folks here. We've had so many conversations right here in Sumter with military brass, with our airmen, our soldiers, talking about the fact that, I'd love to stay here in Sumter. I'd love to stay here in South Carolina. But it comes down to dollars and cents. The folks who are retiring won't have that excuse anymore because of this legislation. So I would say in the Senate, you couldn't be here today, but our new finance chairman, Harvey Peeler, this year, we filed the latest iteration of this bill. He came walking across the chamber and he said, I'm going to be a co-sponsor of this bill. And I don't think without that support, we'd be here today. And so in his absence, I do want to thank our Senate finance chairman, Harvey Peeler, for his support. I know Senator Billy Garrett, he's here today from McCormick County. He was an early co-sponsor of this bill. And let me just say this, the sky's the limit. We're going to continue to expand the mission of Shaw here in Sumter. We're going to continue to attract more military retirees here in the state. You make wonderful friends, you make wonderful neighbors, and really, it's a huge workforce development piece. We know in South Carolina, we've got more jobs that are coming online than we can fill. So this will address that need. But there's so much we like to say. I couldn't be prouder today. I couldn't be more proud of our legislation, our legislative delegation from Sumter. Governor, again, thank you for letting all of your support and your voice in this issue. Thank you for signing our bill here in Sumter. And without further ado, let me introduce to you the author of House Bill 3247 and 61st Speaker of the South Carolina House of Representatives, Representative Grimsley.
It's a great day in not only Sumter County, but South Carolina. And let me start off first thanking some people. Senator McMaster did a great job of thanking those who are critical. But Bill, Bethea, Charlie Farrell, we were in this at the beginning. And let me rewind a little bit and talk about how this came about. One thing I love about being a member of the General Assembly is legislation doesn't develop from some magazine or for some think tank. Legislation generally develops here locally in your community and in your district. And I'll never forget in 2010, there was a Air Force pilot who had retired from Shaw. His name was Bob Harvey. And Bob came up to me and said, Merle, you know, South Carolina doesn't exempt military retirement from income taxes, so I'm gonna have to make a financial decision. I love Suffolk County, I love South Carolina, I want to live here, but it costs me money to live in South Carolina. And at that point is when the idea was born that maybe we ought to exempt military retirement. I discussed it with Representative Weeks, and we filed a bill. That following session in 2011, and the journey began there. And it culminates 11 years later with the signing of this bill, and a lot of people helped along the way. So I cannot thank you enough, because it was just Representative Weeks and I out there asking for this to be, this bill to be passed. There were no allies. And then Bill Bethea and Charlie Farrell came and joined us, and we worked, and the coalition grew like it should, and that's how all good legislation gets passed. Governor McMaster, I cannot thank you enough for your support. You were the first one who came out and embraced this as soon as you were sworn in as governor. And not only did you embrace it, you included it in every budget that you have submitted since you have become governor. And the support that you have given has been invaluable, and that makes this day possible. What is the result of this bill? This is what I think is most important that we all need to remember, is the statistics. Governor McMaster and I love to give statistics about how great South Carolina is right now and how they are doing economically. But the annual impact of the military installations in the state is $34.3 billion. That's 254,000 jobs. That's 11.2% of our economy is related to the military installations in this state. We have the 8th highest military retiree population in the nation, 63,000 retirees among our state, almost 400,000 veterans. South Carolina, the military community is critical not only to our state, but to our nation as a whole. And this is the way that we say thank you to our veterans, and thank you to those who sacrifice and serve this country. It is an absolute honor to have them to be a part of us. And like Representative Senator McMaster mentioned, is the beauty of this is we have a workforce issue, and it's a great problem to have, Governor, but we have more jobs available than we have people to fill jobs. And we have to concentrate on workforce in this state in order for us to be successful. And there is a highly trained, ready workforce sitting out there, our military installations all across the state. And this bill right here will incentivize them to stay here in South Carolina. 35 other states do not tax military income in this country, and South Carolina is about to join that list of those who do. So I cannot thank you all enough. I cannot thank Senator Garrett, Representative Davis for coming. They drove from Beaufort and McCormick and Greenwood to be with us on this rainy day, but it shows the importance that it's not something that was done by 1 or 2 or 3 legislators. This was done collectively. And this was done as part of a team that we all came together and made this happen. So, Governor, I cannot thank you and the general enough for your concentration and for your support of veterans and the military across the state. Y'all know we just created a few years ago, after the governor leading this, the Veterans Affairs Department, led by General Grimsley, and they are doing great things in South Carolina. We are making South Carolina the most friendly, military-friendly state. Governor, you deserve the credit for that, because you have been an absolute champion of the military and the veterans in this state. So let me tell you, it's my pleasure to introduce the governor, and I always love to brag on him, because I'm going to tell you, he is not only the greatest governor in the state and the United States, he's probably one of the greatest governors in the history of South Carolina. This man cares more about South Carolina than he cares about himself. There are no Democrat ideas, Republican ideas. There are only good ideas and bad ideas from Governor McMaster. If there's a good idea, you can always count on that he is going to embrace it, he's going to work, he's going to do what makes the state better, and makes this a great place to live, work, and raise a family. So, Governor, it's my honor to introduce you, the Governor of the great state of South Carolina, Henry Gardner McMaster. And I really don't know of
through, swipe the lane today, and just looking at everything. I don't think I've ever been in this spot before, but it's beautiful. That's how the whole state is. And the ladies and gentlemen, those wearing the hats and standing, and veterans, those who defended our country and took the oath. General Grimsley mentioned, thank you very much. All of you who are citizens of this great place, contributing to the strength of South Carolina, thank you very much. This is a great, great place. And the Speaker Smith mentioned that some other states that have this tax exemption, but we are joining the smart ones. But this is just one more thing that's to make a difference in South Carolina from the top. You remember that Mark Clark, the great general in World War II, 4 stars, I believe, later said that he was president of the Senate right before General Grimsley said there's more patriotism in this place than any place in the whole world. And patriotism translates into loyalty, into discipline, into understanding all those things, and it is written all over South Carolina. If they made military bases and the Coast Guard also increasing this strength. In Charleston, this was, is, and always will be a great military state. Our military tradition and Judeo-Christian traditions, when you combine those two traditions in this place in the river paradise and put us through hurricanes, wars, and everything in between the floods, we end up with strong people. And those are the ones that General Mark Clark spoke of. But here, Earl mentioned some statistics. Let me give you some more right quick. These figures. South Carolina, I mean, there's no limit, ladies and gentlemen, to what we can do. You notice how we have a lot of fighting and fussing that they had in other places? When tensions run high, we don't riot, we don't fuss, we different. And that's what these business leaders from around the world tell me when they come in. I speak to a lot of them, and that's what they say. They say the people of South Carolina are different. Well, why are we different? They're all far off. One reason is because we live in paradise. Look outside. And also that the military tradition makes us different for all the reasons that have been mentioned. Now here's some numbers. Did you know that we are the 8th highest number of military retirees in any state in the country? I'm reading to you. Texas, Florida, Virginia, California, North Carolina, Georgia, Washington State, South Carolina, Alabama, and Tennessee. Those are the 10 highest number of actual veterans in the country. But if you do it per capita, we in Alabama are in a tie, I believe, right under Virginia. Now that says something. That says why we are the way we are. And that number is going to grow. And not only are we have now eliminated this tax on military retirement, but you also know we cut income taxes across the board as well. And it's going down, it'll keep on going down just as much as we can. But these states you'll also notice besides the number, Texas, Florida, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee. And then you throw in a couple of others, California and Washington State. Well, this is just essentially the Southeast. Well, there's another clue. This is where all the action is. Everyone wants to be a part of what we have going on here. So let's don't mess it up. We got children out there that need to be educated. We have an environment that needs to be protected. We have jobs that need to be filled. We have dreams that need to be fulfilled. And as long as we can educate the young people, as long as we can see that people are happy, that is the key to success in any profession, any trade, any skill. If you're happy doing it, you're going to do right at the top. So what we're doing here is we're ensuring the future prosperity and happiness of all our people. So on behalf of 5.2 million proud, happy South Carolinians, I want to say thank all of you for making this today. Thank you. And now for the ceremonial sign.